Hi there. Thanks for choosing to watch this presentation about honesty and particularly how radical honesty can change your life. This presentation will give you an intro to radical honesty and Honesty Lab and how what we mean by honesty may be different than what you normally think honesty is. So my name is John. I'm founder of Honesty Lab and a certified radical honesty trainer. That's me talking at an 8-day radical honesty workshop in the photo. So we're going to go through a lot of information that I think you can benefit from and use to improve your life and contribute to the life of other people. And at the end, I'll offer you an honesty exercise that you can do on your own or with friends to give you a sense of this work. So Honesty Lab creates workshops, courses, and education based in radical honesty and Gestalt therapy. And what we do is create a guided environment for you to experiment with being your full self and telling the truth about who you actually are. This is, of course, a lot more challenging than it sounds because we've all been conditioned to hide, to perform, and to lie. So let's get into what is radical honesty. Well, first, I need to give a shout out to Brad Blanton. He's the creator of Radical Honesty, a longtime psychotherapist who, from his clinical work, found that the major cause of stress, depression, anxiety, and psychosomatic disorders was lying. So Radical Honesty was his response to his clients and his patients. It's a direct form of communication that leads to real intimacy, rapid personal growth, and full-bodied forgiveness. And we like to say it's scary and fun and often turns out better than you think. So I mentioned 3 things in that definition: real intimacy, rapid personal growth, and full-bodied forgiveness. Each one of these is important and distinguishes this practice from others. So we'll get into each one of those as we move on through this presentation. And you also might be wondering, so what's the difference between radical honesty and what we normally think of as being honest? That's what we're going to explore in this video. But I'll give you the punchline right away and why we're even here talking about the benefits of honesty. What most dramatically transforms a life from normal misery to unreasonable happiness is telling the truth, descriptively, in detail, in contact and interaction with another being like yourself. I found it to be the most direct path to transformation in my life and the most direct means to bring awareness about the ways in which I make myself suffer. And I say this with some experience. Before I got into radical honesty and honesty work, I had attempted a lot of personal growth work. I had read loads of self-help books, went to workshops, done ayahuasca and psychotropics, shamanic healing, various kinds of meditation, ecstatic dance, circling, men's work, tantra and divine feminine work, voice work, affirmations. I got deep into raw foods and cleansing and changing my diet, visualization, and so many more. But from all of this work, there was still something missing. And what was missing was a real focus on speaking the truth of my experience and developing the capacity to hear other people's truth. When I ask most people, they say honesty is a good thing. We intuitively know that there is something healing about being honest, and most of us imagine that we're pretty honest. But I think the reality is actually quite different. I imagine you perform, withhold, and lie most of the time just like I do. And it's okay. You're not in trouble. You haven't done anything wrong. We've all been taught to lie. Parents, teachers, television, our peers have taught us all how to control ourselves and attempt to manipulate others by lying. Sometimes this is explicit, but most of the time it's implicit, part of our cultural training. And we do that largely by withholding and modifying information about what is really going on with us. So here's the idea. We all learn to play like everything is okay when it's not. We hide our resentment and appear to happily submit to all different kinds of authorities in our lives and behave and act out a few thousand other phony things. So we become polite, conventional, phony people who suffer a lot and then lie about that too. We're just trying to get along without too much hassle until the grave. We learned this as kids. The thought was something like this. If I put a show on for the sake of teachers and parents to keep them off my back, maybe I can have another life in secret, protected by my pretending to be good. And so we continue this behavior of pretending into adulthood. But now, it's so common and so habitual that we're unaware of it. And we're unaware that it is one of the major causes of our common misery and suffering. So what we mean by telling the truth, again, is not what most people mean by telling the truth. Most of us, most of the time, are performing for an imaginary audience that we create in our mind and that we're often not aware of. If I say the right thing or look a certain way, I'll get the approval of someone I imagine to be important. And when we do become aware of our performing, we often don't want to admit it to anyone else because it wouldn't be consistent with how we want to be seen. So we constantly deceive each other. We do it to protect ourselves from other people, and to protect other people from ourselves. We're afraid of sharing thoughts and emotions, especially ones that are socially taboo, like anger or too much love or joy. So our main operating system is to rein everything in. For example, let's say we feel hurt by a remark someone has made, and then we hold in how we feel. Maybe we think it's not important, or they won't understand, or we should just be able to get over it. Or more commonly, we silently resent them and build a case against them in our mind. Or let's take the other side. Our appreciation for someone can be built into a fantasy about how great they are or how perfect their life is. This often happens in the beginning of a relationship. So all throughout our daily life, our mind is building cases against people and building fantasies. And when we don't share what we're angry about or what we appreciate about people, we end up being trapped in our mind, caged in by our thoughts. And our common problem of living constantly in our minds is where our commonplace anxiety, depression, and self-suffering stem from. So what does this have to do with honesty? The way to get over both our anger and our fantasy, to come back from our mind's endless thoughts to our actual experience, is to tell the truth out loud directly to the person we are angry about or we appreciate. So yes, you'll probably feel nervous or embarrassed or any number of sensations in the body. But the common experience is that when you tell the truth, sensations in your body will increase and then diminish. So you may feel tightness in your stomach, rapid heartbeat, heat in your face, tight throat, dry mouth, sweaty palms. But the more fully you experience whatever sensations come up as you tell the truth, the more you will give them an opportunity to change. And this is a very important point. When you tell the truth, sensations in your body will increase and then diminish. Another way of saying this is, what you resist persists. And part of why telling the truth works so well to help us get over past hurts and anger is that we access and experience the hurt and sensations that we stuffed down when the original event happened. So telling the truth makes these sensations alive again so that they can change. When we don't tell the truth and stuff away how we feel and think, anger, sadness, grief, and other feelings and sensations stick around. And then creativity and freedom seem to go. You probably still have stuff sticking around from childhood or past relationships, and those unexperienced sensations are unconsciously dictating how you do all of your current relationships. This is why we place a lot of emphasis on clearing up what Gestalt therapists call your unfinished business by telling the truth to the people who have been most important in your life, your parents, family, past relationships, and friends. So all the common ways that we normally irritate ourselves about other people mostly come from this unfinished business. So again, what's the major kind of lying that causes all of this? It's generally withholding or keeping back information from someone we think would be affected by it. Your mind might tell you that your withholding is for the benefit of the other person, but I'm going to ask you to consider the possibility that your mind is attempting to keep you from experiencing sensations in your body that you have labeled as uncomfortable. And the only way to experience the benefit of breaking your mind's taboo on sharing what you actually think and feel is to do it, to tell the truth and stop hiding. It's an incredible rush and often an incredible release both for you and for the person you're speaking to. And doing so gets you out of your mind, out of being trapped in your thoughts, and allows you to be more fully in the present. And again, that's why I started Honesty Lab, to create an environment where we can all practice together telling the truth and become more comfortable being with whatever sensations come up. I've found it incredibly liberating to be in an environment where I don't need to put on a show, which doesn't mean that I don't try to. These habits die very hard. And an environment where I don't need to lie. Of course, I do, but I see it more clearly. And in this environment, we begin to see the ways we've been shooting ourselves in the foot and holding ourselves back. So people usually start out at a workshop with lots of judgments about everyone else. These things just happen in our mind. And then as we share our secret judgmental mind, we start to really enjoy being with each other. We're less on guard and we're less phony. And this means connection and intimacy increases. Because in our daily lives, very few people will ever tell us that they experience us as phony. So our friends end up being those people who buy our sales pitch. So to me, Honesty Lab is really about friendship. And it supports psychological healing that is only possible with the freedom that comes from not hiding anymore. This is one of the main reasons good therapy works when it does, and why Radical Honesty and Honesty Lab do as well. Okay, so we covered a lot of ground, and there is a lot more to cover. But for now, let's do a quick recap. Lying is a major cause of stress, depression, anxiety, and psychosomatic disorders. We all perform, lie, and deceive each other, most notably by withholding. And we were taught this from a very young age. What you resist persists. So the more you resist your experience, the more it stays with you. And finally, telling the truth helps you experience your experience fully so that it can change. Okay, so after hearing all that, let me ask you a question. How would your life be different if you told the truth about what you've done, what you feel, and what you think? When I asked myself this question years ago, I immediately thought that my life would be dramatically different if I told the truth. I wasn't sure exactly how it would be different or what would happen, but asking myself this question triggered in me the realization that most of the time I was either performing or withholding or trying to make the best impression. Simply put, I was just lying all the time. And that this was actually creating less connection in my life and making me feel more depressed, pissed off, and stressed, and definitely less creative and alive. So ask yourself, how would your life be different if you were truly honest? So what areas of life come up for you right away when you think about that question? Is it relationship, job, family, sex and intimacy, your purpose, your health maybe? And is the thought scary? Is it exciting? Both maybe? Maybe it sounds like an impossibility. Or maybe you feel like you would be selfish if you told the truth. Or maybe your thoughts are broader. Maybe your mind goes to the social consequences of telling the truth. Maybe you're asking, how would we survive with each other if we were actually honest? Wouldn't civilization fall apart? So I have definitely had that thought. My mind still goes to that thought often when I'm scared to tell someone something. But whatever your thoughts are about this, I'll float you another idea. Your thinking about being honest and telling the truth is very, very different than the actual experience of telling the truth. You think you know what will happen, how someone will respond, so we keep ourselves reined in. Thinking about telling the truth, and generally talking yourself out of it, and telling the truth is the difference between the map and the territory. a sketch of chocolate cake and the actual eating of it. And while lying wears us out, traps us in our minds, and makes us angry, lonely, and depressed, telling the truth, in our experience, tends to do the opposite. It wakes us up, creates intimacy between friends and family, unearths creativity, and often reinvigorates our life. When we engage honestly with each other, the energy that was wasted on making an impression is suddenly available for real creativity, connection, love, and full-bodied forgiveness. If you want to get the life you want more quickly, start telling the truth more. And for myself, when I gathered up the strength to tell the truth to my friends and family, I discovered that things didn't turn out as badly as my mind imagined they would. But sometimes it did get worse before it got better. But as I continued to tell the truth and hang out with people who told the truth, it became easier to tell the truth more often. And as I did this, a lot of my old patterns and ways of behaving changed. Like most of the people in my life, we're all a bunch of garden variety neurotics, basically healthy people who are anxious or depressed or angry or uninspired. Most of us are suffering from what Brad in the book Radical Honesty calls generalized deadness, or a low-intensity form of suffering that is the result of staying on guard against imagined greater dangers. So we imagine dangers that are based on memories of how we have been hurt before. Many of us learned as children that being fully alive was bad, and we got hurt for it. So we deadened ourselves, partly as a defense against the big people in our life, and partly to spite them. As I began to tell the truth more often, those imagined dangers started to fade a bit. For me, those fears were about upsetting people, being seen as too much or unreasonable, appearing like I didn't have it together, and 100 other ideas. And sharing honestly about what I've done, what I think, and what I feel is one of the quickest ways to lighten the psychological load we are carrying and bring back that feeling of aliveness. So I answered this question before. What is radical honesty? I said it was a direct form of communication that leads to real intimacy, rapid personal growth, and full-bodied forgiveness. And here's another way to think about it. In order to have any fun in life, we have to overcome our conditioning to be on guard against each other by lying. We have to stop lying in order to learn how to love each other. And yes, it's not easy. It's hard to do because it's so contrary to our conditioning. Still, the hard times help because they teach us about our own courage and how to recognize and acknowledge the courage of others. They allow us to be compassionate. The times we face the truth, tell the truth, and discover the truth in the process of sharing inspires us to keep doing it more. And the more we do it, the more we enjoy it. And the easier it becomes and the happier we get. And surprisingly, we get along much better with other people as well. And we help them to be happier too. We also tend to have less stress, more confidence. We experience more growth, resilience, connection, and intimacy. We get more of what we want by asking for it. And we feel more free in our lives, more open to possibility, to flying by the seat of our pants rather than living in our comfort zones. And it's true. People do get their feelings hurt or get offended or shocked or sometimes unbearably relieved. The judges of propriety are right. But what they didn't discover or failed to tell us was that when all these feelings occur, if neither you nor the one you are bothering with the truth run away, something pretty amazing happens. If both of you stay with your experience and keep on being honest as new reactions occur, right on the other side of the rough going is great freedom and love for each other, and a powerful friendship as people rather than as performers. And while telling the truth is hard, covering up is harder on you and harder to live with than honesty. Being isolated within our own internally judging minds is what most of us suffer from. The rescue from our own minds is done through honest sharing with other human beings. And the only way to do this is to do it. And with a little help from honesty communities, we're pretty sure you're stronger than you think. Okay, so here is your honesty exercise for this video. First, I want you to ask a friend to join you in exploring telling the truth for a few weeks. Then I want you to write down your answer to these questions. What do you usually lie about and keep hidden about yourself? That's number one. Number two, when you remember the times you have lied about those things, what sensations do you notice in your body? And I literally mean noticing heat, tension, cold, tightness in different parts of your body. So this can be a little tricky because we generally spend most of our times in our heads and have less connection to actual sensations in our body. But beginning to feel these sensations and then letting them go is the way to get over hurt feelings and resentments. Okay, and then number three, how do you get in your own way? How do you block yourself or interfere with yourself? What is your favorite method of self-sabotage? How do you shoot yourself in the foot just before the race is over? So all of these questions are pointing to the same kind of idea, which is, what are the ways that you cause yourself to suffer? So take some time to write your answer to these questions and share them with your friend. Then have a discussion together about them. Doing this with a friend and having a good laugh about all the ways you create suffering in your life and perform can be a lot of fun. And this process is helped immensely by being with a few others walking the same path. Good friends can get us past our own mind-centeredness and back into the here and now together. Good friends can also help you feel okay when we don't tread the common path, and when people with old paradigm values say, "You're crazy." Which is, of course, why Honesty Lab puts together events, weekend workshops, 8-day workshops, online courses, and individualized and couples honesty counseling. We need environments and therapeutic communities where we can practice and risk telling the truth and supporting each other in our growth and learning. Okay, so here is the sales pitch. I think I'm pretty good at telling the truth and lying a lot less than I did. And I'm pretty good at leading workshops in honesty and inspiring people to live more fully out loud and experience more aliveness and freedom. So I'd like for you to consider coming to one of our events or signing up for a weekend or 8-day workshop, an online course, maybe get some honesty coaching and become part of our growing honesty community. If you need support, feel free to book a free info session with me to learn more about these workshops, courses, and all our other offerings. You can also get honesty counseling from me, where we go deeper into how to live honestly, get over the past, and then build a compelling future. So feel free to get in touch with me, John, at hi@honestylab.com. So now I encourage you to watch the rest of the videos in this series and experiment with telling the truth, especially to the ones you care most about.